Stop the bleeding, start leading. Because let's be honest, in law enforcement, we're not just facing a recruitment and retention issue, we're facing a leadership moment because we've experienced leadership failures over the last several decades. And how we answer the call for transformation in law enforcement will shape our departments for decades to come. Welcome back to the Warrior Servant Leader podcast, where we challenge warrior servant leader professionals to lead with clarity, courage, and conviction. I'm Pat Welsh, your host, retired law enforcement executive, leadership coach, national trainer and speaker, and your guide on this journey to a purpose-driven life. So let me paint a picture for you. Across the country, agencies are struggling to hire and retain police officers. The applicant pools are drying up. Veteran police officers are retiring early. They're taking disabilities, or they're just quitting the profession, or they're transferring to other departments, thinking the grass is greener on the other side. Some just retire on duty. And it is affecting the culture and support law enforcement is getting from the community. So what are many agencies doing in response to this bleeding of manpower that it's not there to hire? They can't keep it when they get good officers. What are agencies, police chiefs, executives, city managers, mayors, what are they doing to make a difference? And across the country, it looks like they're just scrambling for quick fixes to get breathing, living bodies behind the wheel of a cruiser. They'll do things like offer signing bonuses. I mean, this is not the NFL where we give signing bonuses to steal away another player. It's a quick fix, but it is not addressing the actual underlying issues. We give lateral transfer incentives. We fast track our academies. We do the minimum amount of time necessary to get people through. I know Ohio just passed a law that took effect, I believe it was July 1st, for retired post-certified Ohio officers that want to come back into law enforcement, but they've been separated. They've been retired more than a year, and they're fast tracking those re-enlistments, if you will, to get veteran officers to come back. And that's getting bodies. It's putting people behind the wheel of a cruiser or behind a desk in the detective section, but it's not addressing the underlying issue or issues of why it is so hard to recruit and retain cops today. Basically, what we're doing is we're treating symptoms, but we're not treating the causes. And we're trying to plug holes in a sinking boat, and it's not working. So what are we doing? We're reacting instead of getting back to basics and facing the hard truth. And here is the hard truth when it comes to leadership. If we don't start leading with a vision, we'll keep repeating the same mistakes that we've made over the last decades. I remember when I was with Dayton PD, we had a hiring freeze for 4 years. We had reduced our entry-level test to basically a fourth grade reading level. And back in our heyday in the 80s, we'd have 1,200 applicants. About 400 would actually pass the test. Probably less than 700 actually showed up to take the test. And we were only doing classes of 30, 35 people. And then we hit this hiring freeze, and our applicant pool had shrunk. The economy had taken a turn for the worst in the Dayton area. And so they decided to have a massive hiring push and start an academy class of, I believe it was 64 people. And out of that 64, within about a 5 to 7 year span of time, the two of them were criminally charged for robbing drug dealers. One was convicted. Uh, and that 64, I think they were down to less than 20 of them were still with the department. We can't expect our cops to do more work with less folks. And we can't take these shortcuts and these quick fixes in order to sustain the level of service and the quality of service that we want to give to our communities. So, one of my all-time favorite sayings is start with the end in mind. Start at the end product and work your way backwards. And basically create your product by having a vision and picture of what the best version of that product will be in 5 years or 10 years or whatever span of time. Start with the end in mind and then start working to reach that end. Here's some questions that will help you start that process. Question number one, what kind of department are we building right now? And what kind of department do we want to build? Second question, what do we expect and accept from our officers and how they think, talk, and act on and off the job? Because the answer to that question is your culture. How they are expected and accepted to think, talk, and act on and off duty is your culture. And if you have the public or politicians saying you need to change the culture of your agency, that's the question you got to ask. What are we accepting and expecting from our people? Are we expecting the minimum? Are we accepting the minimum? Or do we expect and accept more? Do we accept and expect our officers to lose their temper on calls for service, that's just part of the job and it happens? And by the way, we have a early warning system in place for officers that are having real difficulties. Is that what we're expecting and accepting? We'll wait till the early warning system goes off. It's too late when that happens. Third thing, what culture do you want? How are your people? What's your current culture? But more importantly, what culture do you want? This is where the real strategic leadership of your agency begins. Don't plan for your next academy class until you have actually answered these questions, because the culture you want starts in the recruiting process, not once they're sitting in a chair in the academy. You design the culture you want, spell it out, and what that looks like 10 years from now. What kind of culture do you want? Because sometimes the culture you want may include a better educated workforce. And if people are going to have to get an associate's degree while they're working on the department, get a bachelor's degree, look at Lakewood, Colorado. You can't even apply for entry level or lateral transfer unless you already have a bachelor's degree. But that's their department. That's the culture. That's what they expect and accept from their applicant pool and their working officers, their staff, is at a minimum you have a bachelor's degree. Once you have that vision, where do we want to be 10 years from now? Then you reverse engineer that. That's when you then, because you have your end. So now we're going to go to the beginning because we already know what the end looks like. And you do everything from designing your recruitment strategies, designing your HR processes of onboarding people, designing your academy programming, the courses you teach that are above and beyond the minimums that the state requires, and even included in that vision 10 years from now is your promotion process. What do you want your sergeants and lieutenants, or if you have corporals, wherever you're at, all the way up to the chief of police? That has to be in writing, what you expect and accept in the way of thinking, talking, and acting as your culture of your agency. Now, this is the long game. 10 years, that's a long time, right? So what's the good news if that's the long game? It works. That's the good news. This is not a lazy river ride of running a police department that you hop on the little floaty thing and you just go with the current and have that mindset of, oh, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Doesn't work. Just look at the last 40 years of law enforcement. Lazy river rides don't work. You have to have structured, strategic thinking and implementation of a vision. So, when you define your department's future clearly, every personnel decision springs from that. I'd liken it to take the O.J. Simpson trial back in the day. And if you ask people, hey, what was the theory of O.J.'s defense team? What was their mantra that they kept repeating to the jury? And it was real simple. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit. Everything they did or said in that entire trial sprung from that statement, that vision. And they actually created it to be a fact. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit. What was the prosecution's theory of their case? It's real simple. He did it. That's not a theory. That's a conclusion. They had no strategic presentation of reaching the jury with their own mantra, if you will, their own jingle of why did O.J. Simpson commit this crime. And then if you have that vision and everything springs from it, everything you do and say needs to be aligned with that vision, which takes us to recruitment. And this process of recruitment is actually a two-part process, a two-part strategy. It's not enough to just recruit new cops. You want to keep them. You don't want to hire the best and then have them leave to go somewhere else. You want them to rise up in the ranks because their mindset, their mission and vision, their culture, how they're going to think, talk, and act on and off duty is aligned with the vision of your agency. Those are the people you want to keep and promote. But it starts with recruitment. So let's talk about it. Too often we ask this question when we're getting into the arena of recruiting because we're in crisis mode. And that question is, who can we get now? How fast can we onboard new cops and get bodies out on the street? The better question to be asking is, who do we need to get to become the agency we want to be? And recruit those kind of folks that will help you reach that vision and goal and objectives that of being the department you want to be. It's kind of like competing in the Olympics. There is not a single Olympian who goes to the Olympics that says, hey, I'm here to just get by and get maybe a bronze medal, maybe a silver medal. No, everybody is out there competing for the one ultimate prize, the gold medal. And they train for that. Their mindset is geared towards that. And statistically, only one person's going to win, but they don't quit. And they keep coming back every 4 years until they're too old to keep coming back. It's like that with your agency. If you want to be the best, recruit the best, insist on the best version of that person all the time, and don't quit when you have setbacks. Just that mindset alone and that question alone of who do we need to get to become the agency we want will create an entire shift of focus in your agency. So 3 things you can do very easily. They're very cost effective and they make sense that you can do to start that mind shift going and getting to that 10-year goal of who do we want to become. Some of you are already doing this, but not in a very strategic way of partnering with community leaders and schools. But here's what I suggest. Partner with community leaders, high schools, community colleges, your skeptics in the community, the people that are screaming the loudest and want to defund the police. And we just want to wave at them, the one finger wave and tell them to piss off because they're not giving us constructive criticism. They're screaming at us. They're trying to defend us. Guess what? You still need to talk to them. There may be one shred of something positive they can add to the conversation, but you'll never know unless you engage them in that conversation. And here's things you want to ask your community leaders, the schools, the instructors, your skeptics. What are the community's values? What are the community's expectations of the police department? What are they willing to accept in the way of how you hire and do your job? It doesn't mean it's positive. It doesn't mean it's even possible. But if you include them in the conversation by at least letting them be heard, asking them, what do you think? What do you think the mission and vision of our agency should be? What is the community's mission and vision for the community? What are they trying to achieve? And it could be economics, it could be political, it could be education, it could be all sorts of things that have nothing to do with funding your police department, but has everything to do with how you can partner with them to help the community achieve its vision. What if they want to build more tech centers? I don't care. Whatever it is, ask them. What's your vision and mission for the community, and how can we, law enforcement, add value to that? You're establishing relationships with their skeptics and with your supporters because it's about them, not about you. If you don't already have some sort of program where you can have young people in that 18 to 21 year range, or maybe even 16 to 21 year range, because at least in Ohio, you can't become a sworn police officer until you're 21 years old. Launch programs that involve and engage potential recruits when they turn 21 and start molding them into that applicant and that future officer that aligns with your 10-year vision of where you want to be. Call it an explorers program, call it a cadet program, call it whatever you want. But engage people in that 16 to 20-year-old range now, as opposed to, I hope they'll apply when they turn 21. Now, here is a huge one that you can do in the recruitment process. Use behavioral interviewing techniques that get at integrity, get at emotional intelligence, and get at real world moral judgment. Quit asking, why do you want to be a police officer? Oh, I want to be a police officer since I was 9 years old. I want to give back to the community. Everybody gives the same answers. You gave them. I gave them. It doesn't get at who I am. It gets at what I want. I know you want to be a police officer. That's why you applied. Now I want to know who you are. What is your moral compass? What are your ethics? What do you expect and accept of yourself in the way of thinking, acting, and talking? Use those behavioral questions during the oral review board. Use it in if you have an in-out box in the promotion process. Behavioral interviewing questions, if you will, written questions. What do you ask a recruit, an applicant? You're on a call and with another officer. You both arrive. It was a robbery at 7-Eleven. You get there, and the other officer stays out in the main part of the store. You go with the employee that was on duty to go back to the room where the video data is going to be at. And you happen to look up at the monitor and you see the other officer reach into the open cash register and palm 2 rolls of quarters and put them in his pocket. What are you going to do? And if their answer is, well, I really don't know, end the interview, thank them for their time, and send them on their way. If they're 21 years old and they're presented with that ethical scenario and they don't know what they're going to do, they're not mature enough to be a police officer. You don't want that kind of candidate sitting behind the wheel of a cruiser. So create an interview process, a testing process that gets at integrity, gets at their fundamental moral compass, gets at the core of their ability to make informed decisions and judgments. And then you're going to have better officers that are going to stick around, who are going to get promoted, and that's going to be your legacy because you help bring them into your agency. So it's not easy, but it's mandatory. We're using all the wrong filters to hire people who have the authority to take away somebody's freedom and to use deadly force when appropriate. You can't settle for people that meet the minimum requirements because you're going to keep bleeding. You're going to be bleeding out of officers. You're going to be bleeding out of money in lawsuits. You're going to be bleeding out your goodwill with your communities. And we keep doing the same stupid shit over and over and expect a different result because we're not learning from the mistakes we've made over the last 20, 30 years. So recruitment's not about numbers. It's about quality. Yes, you want to get numbers, but would you rather have 5 high driven, moral, ethical, committed warrior servant leader on your job, or 10 little Indians who are just going to be followers and not be committed to your agency, to your community? So, some other things I know I said, I talked about the integrity, emotional intelligence, real world moral judgment. Say that fast 5 times. Um, Also, ask questions that's going to point towards their level of empathy, questions and scenarios that are going to point towards their compassion, um, things that are going to point towards their leadership abilities and aspirations. One of the best questions you can ask somebody that is in that hiring process: what's your dream job on this agency? And they'll tell you, oh, it's a canine handler, it's SWAT team, it's whatever. They will tell you. Just ask somebody in 10 years from now, what do you want to be doing on this agency? And they'll give you an answer. And the answer will be because they believe they have the ability and skills and the commitment to reach that 10-year goal. Now, ask them this question: what would keep you from reaching that dream job? And if they go, well, I want to get promoted and I know you have to have at least an associate's degree, so I would have to get my education. Or if they go, hey, someday I want to be executive command on this department, maybe even chief. And I need, if I want to be chief, I know at a minimum I need to get a bachelor's degree and probably a graduate degree of some sort. They're telling you in their answer, they recognize their weaknesses and they have a game plan of how to overcome them, those obstacles, to attain the goal they want, which is their dream job. And that's going to completely shift the morale of your agency, the work ethic of your agency, because they feel involved in their career, that they're not just a number, they're not just a badge number, they're not just an employee ID number, that they are a part of this agency and this mission and this vision. It's not about just checking off boxes. So you get them on board. Now, how do you retain them? Retention starts with your agency's culture and your leadership. It starts there and it ends there. Retention is not about paychecks. There's plenty of studies out there. People don't quit a police agency because they're not making enough money. They're quitting the leadership and the culture of that agency, that it's not worth working for any amount of money, and they'll leave. Now, some people, especially in smaller agencies, that 15, 20 man department, they're getting experience and their game plan all along is to move to the sheriff's department or move to a bigger city department or whatever. And if that's the case, and that's expected and accepted, then you need a hiring and retention program vision that maybe minimizes it, but won't completely eliminate it. So survey after survey says the same thing. Toxic, bad leadership is the number one reason people leave police departments. The number two reason is almost always lack of growth, opportunity for growth. That you come on this department and you may be stuck in patrol your whole 25 years. That there is going to be very minimal opportunity for growth. So how do you fix that? Career development. Give officers clear paths for growth. You can't give somebody a path for growth if you don't know what it is they want to grow to or towards. That's why you ask them, what's your dream job? Where do you want to be in 10 years? How can we help you attain that? And then that brings about buy-in on their part, that they're part of not only the decision that's being made, but the outcome. Show your folks a future in your agency, whatever that looks like. And I don't care what size department you are, show them an opportunity for a future and growth, and they'll buy. They will buy that vision and they'll stick around. Leadership accountability. You have to get rid of toxic leaders. I know the dictator style leader, do it because I said so. The leader that is vindictive, the leader that's lazy, and if it is that they have positional leadership, they got the bars, stars, or stripes. You need to have very, very explicit expectations and accountability and consequences of the leadership on your agency at all levels, including if you identify who an unofficial leader is on a squad, in a unit, maybe it's in collective bargaining, in your FOP, that they're not a leader in the agency per se, but they're a leader in the work unit, and they are an unofficial, looked up to leader with followers. Have explicit conversations of what you expect and accept in the way of thinking, talking, and acting in relationship to the police department and the union. If you're going to have an open door policy, then you better be ready to hold people accountable when they walk through that door. Wellness and resilience programs. You know, we're not one a day in, I'm sorry, we're not 22 a day like the veteran community is in suicides, but we certainly have more officers commit suicide than are killed in the line of duty. And that's unacceptable. And your people need to know that you have not just a lip service wellness and resiliency programs and protocols. It's not enough to have, oh, well, the city has or the county has an employee assistance program. They're not going to utilize that. They're not going to go to an EAP that's a desk jockey with a social work or some other degree over in HR. Cops are a close-knit group of people. So have a wellness and resiliency program that is unique to law enforcement, not every other employee in the whole city. The other thing is extremely important, and we do this once a year when we should be doing it every day, and that's a very intentional recognition process for when your people do a good job, and there's somebody doing a good job every day. And I don't care if it's just a note that goes in there. We called them deportment cards, where the sergeant could, on your deportment card, which was literally a card, almost like a 3x5, back in the day of before all digital stuff. But however you keep people's personnel files, put attaboys in there. Hey, you got a phone call today from a citizen that they were involved in a traffic accident, and the officer that responded was so polite and even went out of their way after the scene was cleared that and gave somebody a ride to work that was involved in the accident. And this person's calling to say thank you, and please let the officer know how much I appreciate him. Document that in writing, and then actually serve it to that employee who will say, oh, I was just doing my job. No, you were doing a great job. You are meeting our vision of what we want this department to become, and do that in front of everybody on that squad. Give them the attaboy and thank them for a job well done, and do it publicly. Not just once a year where somebody gets the Medal of Valor or some other outstanding award of merit, whatever they are. Yeah, I got 13 awards and citations in my career, and they were given at once a year ceremony for something I did a year ago or 8 months ago, whatever it was. It loses its positive impact. It loses its ability to gain relationship and commitment with your officers and with your community. Let your community know the good job your folks are doing. They got that next door app now. Every community has it. I live in Colorado on 5 acres out in the middle of not nowhere, but it's, my nearest neighbor's 5 acres away. But the sheriff has a next door app and page. And when his deputies do a good job, he puts it on next door and publicly thanks the officers, tells what they did and how outstanding it was, and how they're committed to the values of the agency and serving and protecting the community. People read that. And repetition's the mother of all learning. The more you repeat to your community all the good work your folks are doing, the more you're going to build goodwill and relationships. So when there is that incident that turns a little bit south or really south, people are going to go, hey, let's be patient and wait and see, because the sheriff or the chief is really good about keeping the community informed. So use social media to your advantage. Use the media to your advantage. And share those I call them Paul Harvey moments, the rest of the story. Share them with your people and share them with your community, and not just once a year. It works. So, what are some systems? Because all I'm talking about right there, that's all that intentional, really doing stuff intentionally. But we are about systems and processes. We have to. We have a manual procedure. We have rules and regulations. We have codes of conduct. Those are systems. So what do we do to build the systems that walk the walk of the talk I just gave you? Starts with the field training program. What is going on there in most agencies is FTOs are mostly voluntold. Some agencies that have pretty good culture have been working on this already for 10, 15 years, have actually gotten to the point where their field training program is pretty exceptional. Find those agencies and ask them to sit down with you and help you build your FTO program that mirrors theirs because it's successful. And if you tell people to be FTOs and they're retired on duty, you have that cop that does the least amount of work for his paycheck. No self-initiated activity, is just retired on duty, and you're the sergeant and you go, hey, well, I'm going to cure that. I'm going to make him an FTO, or I'm going to make her an FTO. And you give him a rookie cop. You know how that rookie cop's going to turn out? Just like that FTO, with a bad attitude, hates people, because you're making them do something. And it loses credibility in the actual process and system of an FTO, because they're going to check the box that gets this guy through probation and gets him out of their cruiser, that they're not an FTO anymore. I had an FTO rookie, and within the first week, I was serious, and I volunteered. I wasn't voluntold. I volunteered to be an FTO on midnights. And after 1 week, I was seriously concerned. How did this guy get hired and pass the academy? He was in his early 40s, always wanted to be a cop, all those things. And so I was taking my FTO responsibilities seriously. He wasn't getting failing to respond marks yet. It was only the first 3 weeks that I had him, but I was documenting his deficiencies. I was talking to him. I was trying to teach him situational awareness, all sorts of stuff. He's going to get himself or somebody else hurt. And I went to the sergeant and I shared that with him. And I was going on my pre-approved vacation. It's going to be gone for 2 weeks. So I'd had this guy about 4 weeks. And I come back from my vacation and my sergeant calls me in and he goes, "Hey, you're not an FTO for your rookie anymore." I go, "What happened?" He goes, he went to the lieutenant and complained that you weren't being patient with him. I said, "All right." Oh, he goes, "Oh, it's worse. You're not even an alternate FTO." I said, "Okay, your call, but this guy is bad news and should not make it through probation." And he made it through probation. Everybody just kept passing him along because we needed bodies. Year and a half later, he was arrested and convicted of zipping up his stepdaughter with NyQuil and raping her. I didn't know he was that big a loser, a POS, but I knew he had no business being a cop. If you lower your standards and you just pass people along, you're going to have those horror stories and it's on you. You're going to have to live with that. That's not the way to have an FTO program. So find what out there has been successful and mirror it. Have training, have conversations with agencies that are doing a good job of recruiting, retaining, and training their folks. Your evaluation system, reward leadership and ethical decision making. No matter what level it's at, have a system that recognizes good leadership and moral decision making, not just for bar stars and stripes, but for all ranks. I had an officer on Dayton. I think I shared this story once before. He took a call. A 9-year-old had his lawnmower stolen, and he'd been making money, and he could not afford another lawnmower. He was in a poor section of the Dayton community, and that officer took the call, made the theft report, then went to Lowe's or Home Depot, wherever it was at, and out of his own pocket bought this kid a new lawnmower and brought it back and gave it to him. Officer didn't tell anybody. Mom called the police chief to thank him. That's how the chief found out about it. The chief went public with the news media about that event. That compassion, that empathy, that leadership, that emotional intelligence, that decision making. That's what you want on your department. If that's what you want, show it when it happens. Now, disciplinary system. We get more complaints against departments when somebody's reinstated. You do the right thing, you fire them, they go to arbitration and they get their job back because somewhere along the line, the agency screwed up or whatever the reasons were. If you are experiencing that, look at your disciplinary systems and processes and get them corrected. Don't blame it on some liberal, whatever you want to call the arbitrator, or you shrug your shoulders and go, it is what it is. No, it's happening. If it's happening repeatedly, there's a system issue. Find out what that issue is and correct it. And if that means bringing in outside people to do that analysis, then do it, because that's going to be cheaper than paying off lawsuits that you get when this person that gets reinstated does the same stupid crap again and somebody gets hurt. On your promotions, this is the last one from a system standpoint. There are people who have bars, stars, and stripes that are book smart and strategically stupid. They're not strategic thinkers. They're not empathetic thinkers. They're not compassionate. They're good at academics, and they can learn the right answers and behave the right way in order to get promoted. If you are in an agency where you've had this repetitive struggle with the performance and attitude and morale because of supervision at whatever ranks it is, you have a systems problem besides a people problem. But your system of promotions is not mission aligned. Your promotion process has to be aligned with that vision and mission of where you want to be 10 years from now, and not just settling for the status quo. And again, if you got to bring in outsiders to do that deep dive, bring them in. There's plenty of very professional consultants out there. There's organizations out there like PERF and IACP. Bring in outsiders to do that unbiased evaluation of your system and processes. When all your internal structures, all those systems and processes point in the same direction, your officers are going to know and learn what is expected and accepted. What is the culture? What is the mission? And they will either conform with it or you get rid of them. And you do it the right way, document, all that kind of stuff. But if you have this ingrained in all your systems and processes in every stage of their career, officers are going to have a sense of hope. They're going to have a sense of value and being a part of something that's bigger than themselves, which is why they wanted to become a cop in the first place. It was something altruistic, something bigger than themselves. And then that they get jaded and they lose that. And now they're just biding their time. They know when their KMA day is, kiss my ass retirement day. And they're just trying to get to that date. And they're retired on duty. That's no way to run a department. And it's no way for your people to live professionally or personally. Try living like that for 12, 15 last years of your career. And then you wonder why the life expectancy in retirement when I came on was 5 years. 5 years after you retired, statistically, you're going to be dead. So if you have this alignment of mission, vision, systems, processes, and actually how you have a culture built within your agency, you're going to see a dramatic shift in the performance of your people and the satisfaction of your community in the way you are protecting and serving them. So here's the bottom line. We're not powerless. We're not at the mercy of the politicians. We're not at the mercy of our naysayers. We have the power to make differences in our community and in our agencies. We're not doomed. We're not stuck. We're not out of luck. We just have to make an intentional decision to strategically take the steps to become the department we want to build. If we start with the end in mind, then we can go back to the beginning and successfully reach the end that we envisioned. If we define who we are becoming and align every action with that vision, you won't just fill vacancies. You will be building an agency that people want to come and work for. And that is not a pipe dream. It's very realistic. It's very doable, but you got to stop the bleeding and start leading. So, the irrefutable principle to apply to every industry, not just cops, it comes down to those four things that I always repeat. Do the right things at the right time, the right way, and for the right reasons. If you do that, you're going to attain your visions and goals and your mission. So if you kind of reacted to this podcast today, it resonates with you. If you personally are ready to lead with that vision, with that mindset, I'd love to connect. Reach out on LinkedIn. I have a Substack page now. You can reach me, Pat Welsh on Substack, Pat Welsh JD on Substack. I'd love to connect with you. Please leave a comment, a review, share this video or the podcast with somebody that you think needs to hear this message or that it would resonate with them. And then let's grow together. As always, visit the website, Warrior Servant Leader podcast.com. All our episodes on there. I can be contacted on there. My calendar's on there. If you want to get booked on for a free 30-minute conversation, reach out and take that first step. And know that you're taking that first step with the end in mind. You have a vision of where you want to be in 10 years and you don't know how to get there. Then take that first step and ask somebody that can help you. So anyway, that was a long one. I appreciate you guys. I love you for being here and your support. We're over 1,300 subscribers to the podcast, over 800 to the newsletter. So until next time, stay mission focused, be out there, be safe, and never forget your leadership shapes more than just your department. It's going to shape your community. It shapes the future of policing, and it'll be your legacy. I'm Pat Welsh. Thanks for being with us today. Love you all.